Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to the adventurous Vaughn Manor, where today is another thrilling adventure of the books that time forgot. Yes, another episode of the books that time forgot. I'm going through all my books, and most of my books are in boxes, so I'm going through all my books 2 boxes at a time. It's been going on for a while. I've still got a couple episodes left after this one, maybe more than a couple. I have a few books lying around, you see, in boxes. So I'm going through them. My buddy Roger's going through them. It's been a great time. So I got 2 more boxes today. I've looked at these boxes, and we've got penguins and we've got pulp. Yes, penguins and pulp today. It's a thrill ride of adventure as always. I did get, before I get to those, I did get a new book in the mail, because, you know, that whole 100 book challenge that Criminali inflicted on me, I just blame him completely. That's over with due to my Titanic failure. But I did have a viewer who's, and I'm forgetting the name, excuse me, who insisted that I needed to read this book. And so I ordered this book. This is Doc by Mary Doria Russell. Apparently it's a good novel about Doc Holliday. So I ordered this. And I got here this month. Of course, this month is February Fantasy Stories. And then we've got March Mystery, was it March Mysteries, I think? And we've got, I think that's what it is, March Mysteries, right? And which I'm not going to be able to do because I'm reading Shogun. And then later on, we've got science fiction. Was it November? I forget what the months that all of these things happen. But anyway, we've got a month devoted to fantasy stories, mysteries, and science fiction. So I was thinking, you know what? We need June on the Range. We need a month devoted to Western fiction. And so I am going to invent June on the Range, where, you know, a reading event where we will read Western fiction. Doesn't that sound exciting? I'm pretty sure I might be the only one doing June on the Range. But, you know, if you want to join me, let's go for it. Anyway, we're here for something entirely different. We're here for penguins. Now, a lot of these penguins you've probably seen on various Sunday Penguins, I'm noticing. But not all of them. I haven't gotten to all these yet. This first one I have talked a little bit about. This is Sherlock Holmes. This is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes and the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, from Arthur Conan Doyle, the first 2 collections of short stories from Sherlock Holmes. And they're both great collections of stories. They could be his best, those 2 collections of stories. So I'm very glad Penguin does these. I wish they'd do the other collections of stories in a Black Spine Classic edition. But, you know, at least they have these, and they're great. So that's Sherlock Holmes. We've got more Plutarch in here. This is Rome in Crisis. This is the Rome in Crisis volume. Penguin has split up Plutarch in odd ways, and this is Rome in Crisis. This is Fall of the Roman Republic. I did do a Sunday Penguin on this one. Great book. This is an excellent edition, excellent translation, really, really good book. Fall of the Roman Republic from Plutarch. And this is one of my very favorite books of all time. This is Algernon Blackwood, Ancient Sorceries and Other Weird Stories. This is a great, great collection of Algernon Blackwood. A superb writer of weird and supernatural stories, as well as kind of fantasy stories he wrote, horror stories. Just great, great writer. And should be read more today. He read The Willow as one of the greatest weird stories ever written. So yeah, this is an old Penguin 20th Century Classics edition of this book. And I actually like the cover of the 20th Century Classic edition more than the regular Black Spine Classic. It's excellent. Next we have The Deerslayer from James Fenimore Cooper. I have all of these novels in the Library of America, all the Deerstalker novels. The Leatherstocking novels. Deerslayer is one of them. But the Leatherstocking novels from James Fenimore Cooper. I have all of them in Library of America. I probably have most of them in Penguin. I don't think I have Last of the Mohicans in a Penguin. But like I said, I've got other editions of that. I do have The Pioneers, which is part of that series. The Pioneers. Okay, what else we have in here? This is a book I need to talk about one of these days. H.G. Wells' The New Machiavelli. I haven't read this yet, and so I need to read it and talk about it. But I hear great things about this book. And so apparently this is one of his really good social novels, H.G. Wells. So I'm going to talk about that after I read it. Here's a book I really want to reread. This is Victor Hugo, Notre Dame de Paris, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This book, I want to read this year at some point. We'll see. This year's looking a little bit busy, but we'll see. Next, we've got Thomas Hardy and Jude the Obscure. Thomas Hardy's Jude the Obscure. Excellent edition. Next, we have this, Ammianus Marcellinus, The Later Roman Empire, AD 354 through 378. So yeah, The Later Roman Empire by Ammianus Marcellinus. I'm just going to stop talking now. Stop laughing at me, Roger. Roger's back there laughing at me again. Man, give me a break, buddy. I don't see you doing any better. This guy, I don't know if you've noticed, but he barely speaks. It's probably for the best. Here we go. H.G. Wells, The First Men in the Moon. I did a Sunday Penguin on this. I like this novel a lot. It's a good one. H.G. Wells, The First Men in the Moon. Not so sure about that cover, though. Now, this is a work of genius. This is Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. This book, it blew me away when I first read this book. I wasn't expecting what I got with this book at all. This is something else. One of the most passionately written novels ever. Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. I mean, all the characters are jerks, but to say the least. But great book. Sallust, The Jurgethine War, and The Conspiracy of Catiline. This is well worth reading. Sallust, The Jurgethine War, and The Conspiracy of Catiline. Some good Roman history there. Next, we've got that amazing master of classic fantasy, Lord Dunsany. This is In the Land of Time and Other Fantasy Tales. This was edited by S.T. Joshi. A superb collection of Lord Dunsany's fantasy tales. I highly recommend this book. I really, really highly... I know I recommend books all the time. This one, man, if you're into fantasy at all, you need this. Trust me. Trust me on this. You need that book. And next we've got Homer's Odyssey. Now this is translated by E.V. Roos. So this is... Well, this is their first translation. This book was Penguin's first Penguin. Their first paperback Penguin was E.V. Roos' The Odyssey by Homer. So it's pretty important just for that. And the translation's actually decent. It's a good translation. Especially if you're new to Homer. Roos' translation of both this and the Iliad are excellent. I highly recommend them both. Okay, next we've got H.G. Wells, The Invisible Man. Again, did a Sunday Penguin on this. Excellent book. Great, great book. And of course, Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan of the Apes with a Frazetta cover. Great, great copy of this book. The Penguin edition is excellent. The same can be said with A Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Fantastic. Princess of Mars. So a couple great Edgar Rice Burroughs books there. And this, I've talked about this, Charles Beaumont's Perchance to Dream Selected Stories, just wonderful supernatural and science fiction and bizarre stories from Charles Beaumont. A writer who should be remembered more than he is. Excellent writer, wrote a lot of were some really memorable Twilight Zone episodes. And this cover is fantastic and really gives you a sense of this book. Really, this book is great. Charles Beaumont, man. So good. Just so good. Next, we've got Xenophon, A History of My Times. Xenophon, A History of My Times, which is really Hellenica. But, you know, I guess they needed to change the name, Penguin did. I don't know why. I don't think it was necessary, but they did. More Plutarch on Sparta. On Sparta from Plutarch. Sparta, man, that was an interesting place. Armadale by Wilkie Collins. Beautiful cover for Armadale. I have mixed feelings about this book. This was not Wilkie Collins at his best, I don't think. Although this is one of the novels that people who like Wilkie Collins like a lot, apparently. I just think it's so overdone and melodramatic and over the top, particularly at the end. But, you know, some people really like that. It is a sensational sensation novel, that's for sure. And I'm going to read it again one of these days just to see maybe I wasn't in the mood for it or something. I don't know. I don't know. Here we have H.G. Wells, The Country of the Blind and other selected stories. Some great short stories from H.G. Wells. He wrote some great shorter work. And you can find some of the best of that in this volume. Great Penguin volume of H.G. Wells. Oh, look, it's my favorite book of all time. It's Herodotus, the Histories. This is the translation by Aubrey de Selencourt. It is an excellent translation. It's not my favorite volume because, you know, the maps are crap and you need good maps for the histories because you can get lost pretty easily with a bunch of cities that don't exist anymore or their names have changed and where the hell are they anyway and where are you talking about and when did this happen? This needs a lot more than you get, but the translation is excellent. It really is. And this is a very entertaining book. So, yeah, I've got it. Probably one that I will be unhauling. A few of these are. Next, we got Josephus, the Jewish War, which is probably the most important part of Josephus's works. Was about the Jewish War. So, yeah, the war that Rome fought with the Jews in the Jewish War. It was a turbulent time, and this is an interesting volume with a very interesting cover. Okay, next we've got an incredible book. Again, one of my favorite books of all time. This is Frankenstein. This is the 1818 text by Mary Shelley. Which is the better text. There are two different ones. This is the better one. So, Mary Shelley, Frankenstein, the 1818 text. Incredible book. Read that book. Next, we got more Plutarch. This is The Makers of Rome. The Makers of Rome. You know, he split the lives up all over the place. A very popular book. Mark Twain's The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, which I guess I haven't talked about on the Sunday Penguin. I've got some exciting Sunday Penguins ahead. Definitely have to talk about this one. I have talked about this one on an early Sunday Penguin. Excellent book. This is American Supernatural Tales. I think the edition I pulled out was a different edition. I forgot I even had this edition. This is just the regular Black Spine Classics edition of this collection of Supernatural Tales edited by S.T. Joshi. A dynamite collection. Just rock solid, excellent collection of horror stories. Just great stuff. Great stuff. Next, I've got some smaller paperbacks here. Here's Charles Darwin, The Origin of the Species. Incredibly important book. Next, we've got Joseph Conrad's Victory. Victory by Joseph Conrad. I guess this is one of his books that isn't read as often as some of his other ones. Dangerous Liaison by Chodolos de Laclos. I can't pronounce anything, guys. However that name is pronounced. I suck. But this is a good book you should read. Next, we've got Caesar and the Conquest of Gaul. This is an old-timey Penguin Classics. Back when they had these really cool old 60s covers. They're really cool. I like these old covers. Next, we've got another edition like that. This is Greek Political Oratory, which I admit doesn't sound all that exciting, but is actually a pretty good book. And the last book in here I did a Sunday Penguin about. A lot of these were Sunday Penguins, and this is a fantastic book. This is the Greek Myths by Robert Graves, an incredible volume. This was the Penguin Deluxe Edition. A brilliant volume of this book. I love it. It's beautiful, and it's just such a cool book. So there are the Penguins. Now it's time to get to the pulp. I have returned. Are you ready, buddy? As always, raring to go. Okay. So when I said pulp, I meant pulp heroes. Pulp adventure heroes. I've got 2 pulp adventure heroes to share with you today. I got a big box of pulp adventure heroes, 2 specifically. My favorites, Doc Savage and The Shadow. You might have seen my 20 favorite characters list the other day. These 2 were on there. So I got a bunch of books about Doc Savage and The Shadow. Let's get started. I'm going to get started with the Nostalgia Adventures ones. They reprinted Doc Savage in these, and The Shadow in these kind of big pulp-sized paperbacks, these glossy paperbacks with the double columns, just like they did in the olden days. In the back, we've got a great picture of Lester Dent, the amazing creator of Doc Savage. And yes, I do owe you guys a video on this guy because he was so interesting. So I'm going to do that sooner rather than later. But this is actually the 2nd issue of this. I missed the first book when this came out. And I got this one. This one has Resurrection Day and Repel, 2 novels of Doc Savage, who is a very famous pulp hero in the 30s. He was the prototype for so many superheroes like Batman. This guy was a physical marvel who trained himself to fight crime and injustice. He had a whole bunch of agents working for him. A genius guy, ultimate fighter, you know, kind of like Batman, but without the Batman suit. And yeah, great character. So this is Doc Savage, Resurrection Day and Repel. Next I've got Doc Savage, The Golden Peril and Death in Silver. And these Nostalgia Adventures books have the original pulp cover art. So when these were published in pulp magazines, these adventures, this is the artwork that they have. And on the back, they reproduce the covers for both the stories, both the novels that are in this in these books. This is the 4th book in the series. This is Land of Always Night plus Mad Mesa. Another great pulp cover there. Doc Savage, man, he was so cool. And then we've got the Spook Legion and the Submarine Mystery. The Spook Legion and the Submarine Mystery. You just want to pick these up and read them. You know, drop everything in your life and just read these as soon as you see them. This is Doc Savage, Pirate of the Pacific and Polar Treasure. Look how cool. It's so cool. And next we've got Doc Savage, The Lost Oasis and the Sargasso Ogre. The Sargasso Ogre. So this is a pretty cool one right there. And next we've got Doc Savage in his Doc Savage in his swimsuit, the Sea Magician and the Living Fire Menace, the Sea Musician, the Sea Magician, not the Sea Musician, although I'm sure that'd be a great novel as well. No, this is the Sea Magician. and the Living Fire Menace. You know, he was always going up against menaces, this guy. And next we've got the last of my Nostalgia Adventures Doc Savages. This is the Magi and the Golden Man. The Magi and the Golden Man. I wish I had more of these. There were a ton of these. I mean, they just had a ton of these, and I only have a handful. I do wish I had more. So now we're going to move on to when Bantam reprinted Doc Savage in the 60s. They took all those pulp magazines in the 60s and reprinted them. They changed up Doc Savage's look, and they gave him the eerie widow's peak and the shirt that's always ripped. Up to this point in his career, his shirt wasn't ripping all the time. Now his shirt is always ripped. Man, this guy can't go out the door without ripping his shirt. And this was the first Doc Savage adventure. This is The Man of Bronze, which I read earlier this year. I think it was January I read this, and it was, I guess it's only February, so it had to have been January. Man, I'm like some sort of genius. Anyway, The Man of Bronze. Excellent fun, man. This was a fun book. And so I'm going to read this whole paperback series. It'll take some doing. But, you know, now that I can buy books again, you know, I'll get them. The ones that I'm missing. So, The Man of Bronze, the first Doc Savage. So the next one I've got to read is this one. This is The Thousand-Headed Man. Doc Savage, The Thousand-Headed Man. And next we've got The Meteor Menace. Doc Savage, The Meteor Menace. It's menacing, that meteor. Then we've got The Polar Treasure. Doc Savage, The Polar Treasure. This is the 4th book in the Bantam series. And we've got the 5th book, Brand of the Werewolf. Brand of the Werewolf. That looks pretty cool. I want to read about the Brand of the Werewolf. I've actually got another copy of that, you know, so I'm going to have to give that away to somebody. And I've got the 7th book, which is The Lost Oasis, and this cover is so crappy that the oasis is actually lost. They're bats or something. I can't tell. He's like in a snowstorm in the desert. It's kind of hard to figure out what's going on that cover. But number 7 is The Monsters. Doc Savage, The Monsters. You know. And I'm not sure what he's up against, but he's having a hard time as usual, Doc Savage, in The Monsters. And number 8 is Land of Terror. Land of Terror. And I think that's all I have in order. They jump around after that, so there are some that I'm missing that I'll have to get. And why is this in this box? Robert E. Howard has to get in every box. This is actually a nice copy of The Iron Man, which is a collection of his boxing stories, his more serious boxing stories. So yeah, Robert E. Howard snuck in like he likes to do. Okay, now we're going to skip ahead to the 16th book, the Spook Legion. The Spook Legion. There's Doc up against the Spook Legion. What do I have after that? Then we jump to the 80th book, The Kingmaker. The Kingmaker from Doc Savage. Look at him. He looks like the Kingmaker on there. Very uncomfortable looking chair though. That one does look uncomfortable. Okay, next we've got The Red Terrors. The Red Terrors. This is book number 83. There were a lot of Doc Savage adventures, man. This is book 77. The South Pole Terror from Doc Savage. The South Pole Terror. So, of course, they are not in order anymore. The Metal Master, which is their 72, book number 72 that they did. The Metal Master. Oh, book number 15, Murder Melody. Murder Melody. Doc Savage, Murder Melody. Looking all serious as usual. We got book number 61, The Living Fire Menace. The Living Fire Menace. Book 79, The Devil Genghis. The Devil Genghis. Next we have number 59. This is The Yellow Cloud. He's up against the Yellow Cloud with his ripped up shirt as usual. Maybe he just buys them that way. I don't know. I hadn't thought of that. Next is number 70, Spook Hole. Spook Hole, that's a disturbing title. Doc Savage, Spook Hole. I don't know what the Spook Hole is all about. I don't know if I want to know. Okay, number 14, the Fantastic Island. Not Fantasy Island, that's a whole nother island. This is the Fantastic Island. Judging how often I say fantastic, this is probably my island. And he's having some trouble there with some big lizards, Komodo dragons he's up against there, I think. This is an interesting book. This is number 95. This is The Red Spider, Doc Savage, which is a Doc Savage book that was never published until it was published in this edition, I believe, which is book 95. And it actually is supposed to be a really, really good book. So I hope to read it. Although I have, you know, a bunch of other books to read before that. Next, we have a double feature from Doc. This is 22 and 23. It reprints. We got the Czar of Fear and the Fortress of Solitude. Because Doc Savage had a Fortress of Solitude, and then Superman, that big thief, Superman, stole the idea for a Fortress of Solitude. Even the name. He stole the name Fortress of Solitude. Doc Savage had a Fortress of Solitude first. Comic books, man, we're always stealing from the pulps. Now we've got Omnibus number 4. This has Mystery Island, Men of Fear, Rock Sinister, and The Pure Evil. So this is a nice, thick Doc Savage book. Oh, look, this snuck in here. This is number 89, The Magic Island. Yeah, a lot of islands. We got Fantastic Island, Magic Island, got Mystery Island. And this cover is just excellent. I think that is just such a great cover of Doc Savage there. So awesome. And my last Doc Savage book is Omnibus number 3, The Spook of Grandpa Eben, which doesn't sound that scary. The Measures for a Coffin, The Three Devils, and Strange Fish. Don't eat those. Those are strange fish. I'm not sure what the plot of that one was, but it should be interesting. Okay, we got our last bit here. We're going to go to some shadow adventures. The shadow. First, I have a couple that look like this. These were published by Black Mask Online, and they had no right to publish these. So these are actually bootlegs. I didn't know that when I got them, when I picked them up. But this is Fingers of Death. This is a bootleg reprint of the Pulp adventure of the Shadow, Fingers of Death. The Shadow, of course, one of the greatest Pulp adventure heroes of all time. Really, really dark character, the Shadow. They made a radio show about the Shadow, which was very different from the Pulp Adventure Shadow. The Pulp Adventure Shadow is the real deal. So yeah, this reproduces the cover. This one of that original Pulp magazine. This is another one of those Dead Men Live. Another Black Mask Online ripoff. So they had to stop doing these because these are still owned, what, by Street and Smith maybe? I don't know. And here is The Shadow's Shadow. The Shadow's Shadow. And I think I've got more of these around somewhere, but I don't know where they might be. Okay, so now I've got some Nostalgia Ventures, The Shadows, and this is Crime Insured and The Golden Vulture. And this is actually the first The Shadow book that Nostalgia Ventures came out with. So they didn't just do Doc Savage, they did The Shadow as well. So that was the first one. The second one was The Chinese Discs and Malmordo. The Chinese Discs and Malmordo. And again, on the back, they have both original magazine covers. And this one, this is the third book, has The Voodoo Master and The Red Blot. The Voodoo Master and The Red Blot. Next, we've got another one. This is The Murder Master and The Hydra. So we went from The Voodoo Master to The Murder Master. Pretty cool one. Now the last of these I have, because I only have a few of these, Shadows from Nostalgia Ventures. This one has Lingo and Partners in Peril. Partners in Peril is famous because this is the story that was ripped off for the first Batman story. The first Batman story literally ripped off this Pulp story. Like all the plot points and the trap and everything was stolen from because they stole from the Pulps all the time. They figured, you know, these things, they're just going in the garbage, right? After people read them and then they'll forget about them or whatever. They were not forgotten. So that was those. But I also have a bunch of Shadow paperbacks, which I ordered. And I did a video on the Shadows, so you've seen some of these before, but I haven't shown all of them. So it's the books that time forgot, man. So I'm going to show all of them. This is going to be a long video. Sorry, guys. So this is the first book, and these were printed by Pyramid, and this is the first book in their Shadow series. This is how I first encountered the Shadow, where it was in this series of books, so I'm glad I have all of these again. This is number 1, The Living Shadow. The Living Shadow, and Steranko does the covers for these. Comic book artist Steranko, and he knocks them out of the park, as you'll see. This is number 2, The Black Master. Number 2, The Black Master. Another excellent, excellent cover there. Number 3, I don't think this was a Steranko cover, but this is The Mobsman on the Spot. The Mobsman on the Spot. This is their third The Shadow paperback. This is a Steranko, though. This is number 4. This is Hands in the Dark. And this is... you start to get some screaming women that'll show up on the Shadow covers, damsels in distress that'll show up. And this is the 4th book, The Hands in the Dark. Really excellent cover. The 5th book is Double Z, The Shadow Double Z. And the 6th book, The Crime Cult. The Crime Cult. Another excellent cover. Just look at that. That's so, so cool. The Crime Cult. And now, number 7, The Red Menace. We've got the Red Menace here. That's the Red Menace there. The Shadow. Awesome. These are so cool, man. I love the Shadow. Next, we've got Mox. Mox. Yeah, and these are all written by Walter Gibson, by the way. It has the house name of Maxwell Grant, which is what the pulp magazines used. But it was Gibson, Walter Gibson, who wrote the actual stories. Number 9, we have the Romanov Jewels. The Romanov Jewels. Looks like the Shadow got clipped there. Yeah, they got him. Fighting back, though. He's a tough guy, the Shadow. Next, number 10. The Silent 7. Looks like the Silent 7 trying to get their grubby paws on the Shadow. Silent 7. Next, we've got number 11. Kings of Crime. Kings of Crime. And next, we've got number 12. Shadowed Millions. Shadowed Millions. Number 13. Green Eyes. Green Eyes. Pretty cool cover. And this, at this point in the series, the cover design changes quite a bit. This is number 14. This is The Creeping Death. And you'll see that the lettering is completely different. The logo, they fancied it up a little bit. Yeah, just changed the whole cover design. But this is still the 14th book in the series, The Creeping Death, which is a creepy cover. Next, we've got Gray Fist. Gray Fist. Shadow's in a bit of a predicament there. Gray Fist. And we've got The Shadow's Shadow. So I've got another copy of this. The Shadow's Shadow. So cool. So cool, man. And we've got a Fainting Damsel in Fingers of Death. Fingers of Death. That's a pretty good one. Next, we've got Murder Trail. This is number 18, Murder Trail. You don't want to go on a blimp, man. Blimps are always bad news. And now we've got number 19, Zemba. Zemba, which is the 19th book in this series. Pretty cool. I really like this cover. This is one that I had when I was a kid. The Shadow Charg Monster. Charg Monster. Look at Charg there. Trouble. He's trouble. Next, we've got The Wealth Seeker. Number 21, The Wealth Seeker. Yeah. He looks like a pulp villain, The Wealth Seeker. Damsels in distress all over these latest paperbacks. Then we've got number 22, The Silent Death. It's The Silent Death. You don't want to end up in a big tube like that. It's bad. And so finally, my last book in the books that time forgot today is The Death Giver. The Death Giver. Another excellent pulpy pulp cover. Yeah, this is about the pulpiest cover you'll ever see. It's great. It's great in every way. I love it. I love this series of books. I'm very glad that I have it. So there you go. Penguins and Pulp. Catch me next week when we go through all of my Library of America books and boxes. Now that'll be a thrill. I'll catch you next time, guys. Thank you.